Yeah, I've had the guitar neck sitting for a few days now after I applied the boiled linseed oil, and she's really nice and smooth still. I don't think we need to do anything more back here. I just wanted to let it cure up fully before I moved on with the project. And the frets and the fretboard have all been cleaned and polished up, as you can see, so they're all in really nice shape. So we're good to go there. And just going to move you over here so you can get a better look at the body. Now I've done this off camera because I had to do this in the garage. So it was kind of a messy job. So all I did was I resanded the edges. So if you remember from the earlier shots of this guitar, it was more of a thinner line around the perimeter of the body. So I just extended those just to give it a little more of a worn look, expose a little bit more of the wood. And I didn't really do anything on the back at all. There's a few little spots here, oops, right here that you can see. But other than that, the back is pretty much just black. I'm not going to worry about the back. So anyway, that's where we're sitting at now. So what I did was I sanded all this down, and then I applied boiled linseed oil to protect the wood because I didn't want to leave the wood exposed just with natural wood because it's porous, right? It's going to absorb moisture. It's going to get dirty. It's just you need to seal it with something. So I thought, well, let's go with boiled linseed oil. So that's been sitting on there for about a week now, and it's pretty close to being fully cured. It's getting very close. I can still sort of smell it a little bit when I like put my face up to it. I can still sort of smell the oil a bit. So I think it still needs a little bit of time to cure, but that's fine. I have some other things I got to do anyway, because my plan is to sand this down lightly, like I mean really lightly. I may start at 600 grit. I haven't really decided yet, 6 or 800, just to take off some of this dirt and stuff that's on here, and this like some of the oil has got onto the body, obviously, right? Because I had to overlap it in sections like this, and then I wiped it off immediately. Now, from what I understand, boiled linseed oil, it's not really recommended to go over top of like a poly finish, which is pretty sure what's on this guitar right now. So I just wiped it clean. My plan is to sand it down just to remove some of that excess oil that's got on there. And I was going to leave it matte, I'm thinking, and I wasn't sure. I was considering spraying the whole guitar with a matte finish, in which case I could go over top of the boiled linseed oil as long as my clear coat is an oil base. It should be fine. From what I've been reading online, I've never done something like this before, so this is it's kind of a new experiment for me to try. So, but I'm going to sand the whole thing down first off, just to get a nice even surface. You really can't feel an edge when you move your finger along the paint line in the wood. So I'm just going to lightly sand that, and I was tempted to just leave it like with a matte finish because when I started this guitar initially, I had done something similar without the oil treatment on the wood here, and I sanded it all down, and it actually looked really cool with a matte black. My concern is how it will wear over time without some kind of protective clear on there. But then I got to thinking, well, if I sand the whole thing down with like make 6 or 800, maybe to 1,000, and just stop there, depending how it looks, I might be okay because I've got 4 coats of the linseed oil on here, so I have a little bit of room to sand. And if I remove the surface stuff off the black sections, I think we might have a nice matte finish. And there is still some poly on here, right? Like this isn't just paint. There is still a thin amount of poly on here. So I think it is protected. So I'm leaning towards doing that. So it'll save me some time because it's at this time of the filming, it's really, really hot and humid. Not the most ideal conditions for painting, especially spraying. And I'm just doing this kind of stuff in my garage, right? Like I don't have like a spray booth or anything like that. So it would save me some time and some work by just sanding it and leaving it. And again, this is, supposed to be kind of an old looking guitar. So, it might look okay like that. And you know what? At the end of the day, if I find it's not wearing well, or if it's getting a lot of finger marks and staining and stuff is happening, then I know, okay, I didn't work. I need to put something on. If that's the case, then I can do that, in the fall, maybe when things are a little cooler. And I just need to give it a light scuff sand, and then I'll spray the whole thing down with the matte finish and go from there. But for right now, I'm leaning towards just sanding everything down, getting a nice consistent surface, because some of this boiled linseed oil has spilled over onto some sections of the body, the black sections, and you can't tell, obviously. Like right in here, it's really, really sticky, and that's what happens. That stuff dries really, really sticky on the paint, and I need to sand all that off anyway. So this whole body needs to be sanded a little bit at the very least. So that's my plan. And if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on what the better course of action would be, please leave it in the comments. Because regardless of what I end up doing, I think I'm just going to do the sanding for now. And like I say, if it needs some spraying, I'll do that in the fall. And I'll just make like an updated video for this series to add to it down the road. But anyway, that's where the body is. You haven't seen it till now, since I did these subtle changes to the sanding and the look. And I kind of like it. I like that look. So the next thing I'm going to do now, let's move you over here, is I've got the new holes drilled into the neck, okay? And I'm going to dry fit this neck in here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this is obviously not the right neck. This is a Fender Squire Telecaster neck. And this body is an Oscar Schmidt Telecaster style body. So I did have to put a little shim in this neck here. You can see it there. It's a wood shim. And it's just enough to make this neck pocket nice and tight. So I'm just going to dry fit this in here like so. When you put your neck in, you want to try and, hold on, it's already stuck in there. Get it to the back of the pocket like that and kind of push it in like this. I don't know, probably blocked it with my hand, but so it's got a little bit of play in there, but it's still holding in there pretty tightly. Like I can lift the whole guitar up, right? It's moving a little bit, but there's no screws or nothing in there, and that is as far as I can get it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put the back plate on. I'll put the 4 screws in, make sure it's all good, and then I'm going to temporarily put the bridge back on, and I'm going to run the high E and the low E strings onto the guitar and string it up. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to make sure the string spacing on this neck is going to work with where they're coming through on the body through the bridge, because this is a different neck, right? So I want to make sure the string spacing is correct on the fretboard. Like I don't want, like say the low E string is really, really close to the edge and the high E string is really, really far away from the edge. You want them to be nicely even across the whole way of the neck. And I also want to make sure that the string spacing on the nut slot, right, those nut slots, that was the nut that was on this neck when I got it. So I need to make sure that this string spacing and that bridge where those saddles and all that stuff comes through here, all those like when the strings come through here, I need to make sure that this nut is going to work for what I'm trying to do here. So like I may need to replace this nut. If this string spacing is throwing things off, I may need to replace that. So that's why I'm doing it now, because if I need to order a nut and replace it, I got to do it now. And I don't think I'll need to replace any other parts. I mean, there's no reason to replace the bridge. All the holes, everything is already here. So I'm thinking we'll be okay. If anything, we may need to make a subtle adjustment, and at the very most, maybe swap the nut out. So that's what this video is going to be about, just doing some dry fitting, testing a few things out, making sure things are going to fit properly. So I'll probably just move the camera here and just let it all run and edit it down the road when I'm ready to post the video, because it'll be a lot of me fiddling around. And I'll just sort of, stop it now and again and give you a commentary on what exactly I'm doing and why. And I'll show you the process as we go. Okay, so I was just checking to make sure we got a nice, seal around where the body and the neck meet in the pocket here. Now, as you can see, I've relic the neck plate as well. Um, Figured I might as well. I'm doing everything else. Now, this plate, this is the original plate that came on the guitar, and it looks a little crooked, and it was on there a little crooked initially, but that's just the plate through the body, and it looks like the neck is in there nice and tight. I'm not seeing any gaps or you know anything like that. Yeah, I think we're good. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bridge on. So I'll just slide the guitar up here. Let's just get that bridge on. Maybe just tuck the wire into the cavity here. Oh yeah, that'll work. Okay. Okay, so got the bridge on. There is a fifth screw that goes in the middle here, but that's not really needed. I just got the four in the corners in just to hold it in place, just to give me an idea of what we're doing here as far as the string spacing goes. Now, what I've got to do now is grab a set of old strings I've got. And these are just a cheap set of strings. I buy a bunch of these from the guitar store in town here. I don't even know what brand they are. There's no marks or anything on them other than what string um, is being used here. Like they just have like third on them. They don't. That's all that's on there. I don't know what they are, but they're just cheap. I get them at a really good price because I buy a lot of them. But as you can see, I've used a couple of these before. Now I don't use these to play. I just use them for stuff like this, testing out string spacing, that kind of thing, because you don't want to waste a $20 set of strings or whatever on doing something like this. So I'm just going to feed in the low E string. So, and the high E string, I haven't used this one yet, so I'm just going to cut it open. I'm hoping this will work out. Okay, and I'm just going to get them strung up now. And I'm just going to raise the saddle height up a little bit just so they're sitting level. And I'm not doing any kind of height adjustment here. I just want to make sure that the saddles are level. That's all I'm doing here. Okay, so before we go any further, let me just show you what I'm doing here. So I've got the high E and the low E on. And what I'm going to be checking is like the distance between the edge of the string to the edge of the fretboard. Okay. And same thing on both sides. They should be pretty even. They look, just by eyeballing it, they look pretty good. I think when we get a little higher up to the closer to the body, it looks like the low E string might need to come in a little bit. But again, the neck is a little wider down here than it is by the headstock, right? So I think we'll be okay. Let me just make a few tweaks here. without all the strings on, the saddles in the middle here, these four, they're just sitting in there loose, right? So I just want to kind of approximate. Once string tension is on there, they're going to sit more like that. Yeah, that looks better now, because this high E one is kind of floating out a little bit right now. Not much, but I think we're good. I'm just going to take some measurements. Let me just stop the film for right now. Okay, so I've taken some measurements up and down the neck on either side on for both strings, and I just taking my ruler and placing it against the string and measuring, the distance from the edge of the string to the edge of the fretboard. And for the most part, it's 8/64 all the way up and down the neck. And on the high E side, near higher in the higher frets, it's getting to be around 7/64. Now, I'm not going to worry about that too much because, like I said earlier, once the rest of these strings goes on, like this saddle will be they'll be tighter together once all the string tension is on here, because this one here is just kind of moving around a bit. The low E string, because it's a heavier gauge, it's just not moving as much. Of this being a lighter gauge string, I think is why it's moving a little bit. But even when I squeeze them together and push them tight and hold it, and I measure, it's 8/64 up here. So even if it's a tiny bit off up here, I don't think it's going to make that big a difference. I think we'll be okay here. So I don't think I'll need to swap this nut out for any reason. Not right now, anyway. I won't know till I get all the strings on, of course. But for now, I think we're good. And even if I did need to replace that nut, it's not the end of the world. It should be easy enough to find a replacement one for that size. It's a common sized neck or nut for this neck. So I think we're good. These are the kind of things you want to check before you go further into your project, because if you end up, getting all this work done and then you find out these things don't fit, well, you're in kind of a bit of a spot, right? But I think we'll be okay here. So I'm gonna take this off now. I think there's no reason to leave those strings on there. So I'm gonna remove this. I'll take the neck off. I'll take the bridge off. The next step will be sanding this body down, but I think I do need to let that sit a little bit longer for it to cure a little more. I can still, I can still sort of smell some of that boiled linseed oil and from what I heard, that's a good way to tell that it's still curing, is that you can still smell it a little bit. So I'll give it a few more days and I'll do some editing and stuff in the meantime. And then we'll come back and I'll get started on the sanding.